On to Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, the Talkin Sports here, hosted by myself, Jacob Young, here on Rio Sports Live Network from Luke Fruia Motors, Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, well, check out Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac, located in none other than Brownsville, Texas. So, a lot to really get to. We'll talk about, of course, really almost our final talk of the RGV Red Crowns as their season is wrapping up. And then, of course, yes, we'll talk a little bit about the magazine. We'll talk about, well, volleyball season is almost officially in full swing. The only difference, of course, will be that their official start date is August 1st or around August 7th, somewhere around there, for their first real practice. And then, of course, the UEFA Women's Euros is going on right now. We'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll talk about last Sunday. What happened last Sunday was, well, very simple. It was the Gold Cup final. We'll talk about that. And a possible rant in there related to. It's going to be a lot more professional sports, but, of course, we'll cover a little bit of, well, some Valley sports. One thing to, of course, mention is, well, if you take into consideration this, there is about 8 more weeks, maybe about 8 more Saturdays or so until the start of football season, aka college football season, the full first official week, which means that there is about 7 weeks until high schools hit the field for their first games. And that's going to be very exciting as well. And then, of course, one of the biggest things is for college football, at least down here in the Valley, will be UT-RGV football. Yes, it's going to be exciting. But again, I urge everyone, and we'll talk more about it hopefully in this show, take this first season slowly. Don't expect much for this first season for UT-RGV football, due to the fact of, well, they're playing Prairie View A&M, they're playing Incarnate Word, they're playing all these schools that have been around since pro football programs, I should say, that have been around since I was a kid. This is UT-RGV's first year. They're on probation. They cannot make the postseason. They cannot make the NCAA tournament. So just take that into consideration. And remember, all games will be in the evening. Somehow, some way, they are all in the evening time. So congratulations to UT-RGV for somehow getting that instead of 11 a.m. kickoffs. And other than that, it should be exciting. We'll talk, of course, more about it, like I mentioned here, potentially through this show. But just thought I'd mention it because that's very exciting indeed. Of course, yes. Also talk a little bit of racing because, well, there's a race this weekend. It might not necessarily be virtual. It's not virtual. What am I saying? It's a real race in IMSA. The WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge will head off to Canada in the outskirts of Toronto for Mosport, aka Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. That's going to be exciting. And then, of course, the VP Racing Fuels tags along with them. VP Racing Fuel Sports Car Challenge tags along with them, and we'll talk about that as well, because we all know I like to talk about Samantha Tan Racing Talk. We'll talk, of course, like I mentioned, the Red Crowns, and of course, the first thing to talk about is, well, the magazine. The magazine is coming out very soon for none other than Rio Sports Live Network, where we will have all of your, from the volleyball media days that we had to the football media days that we had, all of the key players to look out for football on each school possible that you could think of. Well, from Santa Rosa, St. Joseph Academy, even flag football will be in there, of course, from the Idea schools. And then, yes, you've got your Marine Military Academy teams, as well as your MAC Highs, your McAllen Memorials, your Mission Veterans Memorials, your, of course, Mission High, and then your Brownsville Lopez's, to your Brownsville Riveras, to your Brownsville Hannahs, and also to your Brownsville Veterans Memorials. So we will have everybody. Of course, Brownsville Pace will be in it. That's what I'm trying to say is there are no limit to the schools. About 85 teams, I believe, or somewhere around that many for just football alone. And then, of course, you enter in with volleyball. It's going to be about the same, if not more, with that of who to look out for. Of course, as we brought into that tomorrow, we will have none other than the Venom League on tap for you all, courtesy of Rio Sports Live Network. And then also on top of that, we will have for you will be, well, not this weekend, nothing this weekend, but then a week from tomorrow. A week from tomorrow, guess what? Pony World Series will have its first pitch, and we will be there to cover it from the Philippines to the Netherlands are in there, as well as, of course, teams from the U.S. all across from New Mexico, I believe. And, well, it's going to be exciting. That's something that, of course, I would touch up on, but I don't necessarily want to. We saw some interesting things last year, and then we saw some not so good things last year, which was pretty interesting indeed. But either way, we get back to it. Philippines will try to defend their title next week for that tournament. Going back into it, first thing that we really want to talk about, of course, is none other than the RGV Red Crowns. How did they end their season this past week? Well, of course, last week, their final game on Wednesday when I was here last, they played on the road against none other than Austin United FC. Could they win? If they won that, basically they are locked into the playoffs if they were to win. They had a chance to control their own destiny on the road, ended up losing 1-0. It was a very, very difficult match, and that really set them into not making the playoffs. Now, of course, I mentioned it not too long before that. The FC Revolution match was canceled, and a forfeit was issued to that team. So 3 points for the RGV Red Crowns. They got that win. But because of the 2 forfeits that we've had, the RGV Red Crowns are still planning, at least behind the scenes, trying to work on another friendly, is what it seems, potentially next weekend. But nothing is confirmed as of yet, but they did post on their social media. This is where I'm getting the information from. As Kobe Fayad, as I had mentioned the last time with the story of what his statement had said, the president of the team, the owner of the team to be exact as well, he had mentioned it before. So now, of course, from the RGV Red Crowns, what did they have to say with it? With the RGV Red Crowns, they really hadn't. So it was more on the Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, side of things, to be exact, with the RGV Red Crowns. They had posted a day ago, "Hey RGV, we've missed you. We've been working behind the scenes to end summer with a bang, but in the meantime, enjoy some of our amazing supporters sharing why they love the best place on earth, the RGV." So anyways, there was just, of course, them saying, yes, we're working on something behind the scenes to end summer with a bang, yes, with a match. So expect potentially them getting a match in the next week or 2 or 3 or somewhere around there, just at the end of it. Of course, Harlingen Field, to be exact, is where they play their matches, and so it's very exciting. Anyways, the RGV Red Crowns, that was just a very difficult game for them. They did not end up making the playoffs. At that point, their starting 11 was pretty interesting. We'll read you, of course, the starting 11 from that match to be exact. It was Juan Carlos Alvarez on goal with Axel Monels, Rivera, Emmanuel Alvarez, Diego Rivera, Juan Valencia Vaca, Daniel Sierra, Cade Erickson, George Mendoza, Sergio Davila, Keviano Francis. That was your starting 11, with your subs being Jack Creighton, Diego Torres, Omar Galan, Carlos Gonzalez, Javier Ballesteros, Jose Valdez, and Andres Rivas. You, of course, had noticed that there were a couple of names not mentioned. Well, a couple of those players either went back to college already, or, of course, have moved on from the club and have had their opportunities to move on in their potential professional soccer career. So there was a lot of movement for that match, and then Juan Carlos Alvarez getting the nod for the starting spot was pretty interesting in my eyes from first glance, but for myself, knew that he was that good of a goalkeeper. Of course, the Red Crowns bringing on Juan Carlos Alvarez from the start was key. I got to interview that man, which was such a phenomenal interview. Then on top of that, with Jack Crichton as well being brought on, that, in my eyes, really helped elevate this team. And off of this side note again, I'm just because Jack Crichton, he now is, I believe, resides in the U.S. and one of the things that he gets to do, he's a goalkeeping coach, and so I believe with one of the Savannah colleges. So that's such a good thing that in my eyes, I asked him that question of like, how has that chemistry been like with you um, I want Carlos Alvarez. I know, of course, has he been able to learn things from you or anything like that? And Jack was able to give a very good statement about that whole thing, and it was very impressive. And so, good job from Jack, or not good job from Jack, but just like I really do feel like both of them really helped elevate their game on both sides. And in my eyes, of course, Jack Crichton, he in my eyes, doesn't deserve to be a coach. He deserves to be still playing professionally or in that next level. So, just one of those really cool situations and awesome things. So that's, of course, where your starting 11 was, and from the whole match, it looked pretty normal in a way, or not normal, but just the RGV Red Crowns having chances. Of course, the reminiscent of when they played them at home, Austin United at home, and just could not find the back of the net in the end. And when Carlos Alvarez lets one by, finds the back of the net, and all of a sudden it was 1-0 Austin United FC, and Austin United FC win in the end, 1-0, securing themselves a playoff spot, eliminating the RGV Red Crowns from playoff contention. And that basically ended up being the conference semifinals. Of course, top four go through, so it's the conference semifinals right off the bat. And your teams was FC Dallas. We'll make sure, of course, who it was. FC Dallas U23s with Austin United, and then Central Dallas. I'm trying to think of the last team. Central Dallas. So we go with, of course, none other than the League for Clubs, just to make sure that we knew who was going through. In the end, with the League for Clubs, we really didn't know, I guess, who. But point is, the RGV Red Crowns ended up missing the playoffs and will end their season with a friendly here coming up very soon, is what it sounds like. I could be wrong on that, but looking forward to it. So anyways, there's not much else to really say about this team besides this is a good start for a club that was semi-pro, or is still semi-pro, until, of course, further notice. And there's some things that are being worked on behind the scenes that, of course, I can't tell you about at all. But I know that this club is only the first step. There's multiple steps to be made, especially with the stadium that was in ruins from a baseball field and real grass. And so now they'll have a whole entire off season and anything to really build the field how they want to, make improvements to it, potentially put a press box at midfield instead of having the press box behind home plate, or where home plate used to be, and that would be in the corner near the anyways, we'll take a quick little break. When we return, we will be back with our next subject, and we'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
This summer, settle in and reconnect with one another. South Padre Island has so many great places to stay. Condos, resorts, and hotels. Oh my! Book your summer getaway today. And start making memories poolside with the people you care about most. Visit SoPadre.com.
Elevation, AT4, AT4X, Denali. Case closed. Fruia GMC, we're professional grade.
Fiber, business or home, take a look at what we do.
At San Benito Vision Source, the optometry staff works around your busy schedule and take the time to answer your questions and concerns prior to a visit. Dr. Jaime Rodriguez and Dr. Laura Loki offering full vision examinations, diagnostics, and treatment of an array of eye diseases and conditions to keep your eyes healthy. Call the friendly staff today with questions or schedule a consultation. San Benito Vision Source.
Sunny Glen Children's Home has provided a place of hope for every child since 1936. If you'd like more information on Sunny Glen and the services we offer, please visit us at www.sunnyglen.org.
South Padre Island. Enjoy endless activities for all ages. Then dance the night away with live music, savor fresh seafood, and discover unique food trucks and shop our charming boutiques. What are you waiting for? Escape the everyday at South Padre Island.
I believe that's where it's coming from. Okay, that's where ours is coming from. It's the game audio, so my apologies there. Anyways, back we go from Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, we'll check out Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, and Cadillac. I'm Jacob Young, Studio Sports Live Network, as we head to our next part of the, of course, show. One of the things, like I had mentioned before, was, well, talking about last Sunday, I guess we are going to do exactly that, because it was the Gold Cup final, and it was a massive one. Of course, we're talking about U.S. men's national team taking on, well, El Tri, a.k.a. The Mexico national team. Now, of course, myself am not too fond of that side. Well, there's a lot of different reasons of why, but it really has to do with their federation than anything more. And again, that's just the Mexico national team. But moving on from that, it was a big match as USA were able to defeat Guatemala 2-1 this last week, helping themselves advance into the final, and it was going to be a big final on Sunday. And the U.S. men's national team early in the match, 4 minutes in, get a goal to lead 1-0. A massive, massive job from the U.S. men's national team to lead early on. It's like, find the back of the net, 1-0. Then Mexico find the back of the net close to the end of the first half, I believe, to equalize 1-1. Now the second half brings in controversy. Twice we see the Mexico men's national team fall in either penalty box in their final third or in their attacking third, and land with their hand right on top of the ball. But twice. Not just once, but twice. That's where things got interesting, because we saw it both times. Yes, of course, the bylaws say all this stuff, but like I said, it happened twice. Therefore, it should have been reviewed by VAR. Just like VAR reviewed the first goal, just like VAR reviewed the other goal that was called offside by Mexico when it wasn't offside. That ended up being the match winner. Was not entirely thrilled on the no call. Even if the referee calls it then and it gets reviewed. Because of the fact that it happened twice, it's why it should have been called a penalty. That's why both should have been called a handball. Because of the fact it was done on purpose, and you could easily see it. That's the most frustrating part about it. Every single time it's a CONCACAF event, you see this. But that's not even, of course, where, yes, the U.S. men's national team were just really outplayed in the second half. But I'm not entirely shocked on that. Mauricio Pochettino, of course, he had what he had. He didn't substitute as early as he should have, because in the 70th, 80th minute, that's very shocking to make your first substitutions when you should be subbing in about the 65th minute or somewhere around there. And it's the truth. U.S. men's national team, of course, their starting 11 was pretty interesting. But besides having Brendan Aronson on the bench or anything like that, let's name you the players who did not show up to this whole entire tournament of the Gold Cup for the U.S. men's national team and their players. Because this is why Diego Luna got called up. Patrick Aguiman gets called up. No Giovanni Reyna. No Matt Turner, but Matt Freese. Sebastian Berhalter was on there with Tyler Adams. Arston. But no, well, yes, with, I believe, no Valerian Bulligan. Or no Weston McKinney. Chris Richards was there with Tim Ream. No Anthony Robinson. No Ricardo Pepi. No Timothy Weah. No Josh Sargent. Brendan Aronson, like we mentioned, was there. No Serginho Dest either. No Yunus Musa either. No Haji Wright. My hope, and Jesus Ferreira, just kind of an on and off player that gets on the U.S. men's national teams. No Busio. I name all these players because those players, the golden generation, no, of course, Christian Pulisic either. Those players are the U.S. men's national team's golden generation. And right after their season is over, yes, the Gold Cup starts. Normally back in the Gold Cup, the old Gold Cup days, once the knockout rounds begin, you used to be allowed to bring in reinforcements to the roster. That's when we would normally see the B team go to about an A- team or something like that, where you bring in the Christian Pulisic, you bring in those players. But they didn't have that luxury, of course, because it changed. So why do I bring that up? Well, it's because all those players decided not to play. Mexico brings their A team into this tournament. And this is the final real test, the final tournament for the U.S. men's national team until this World Cup next summer. Around this time will the World Cup be ending and have, your final. Yes, the U.S. men's national team aren't going to win the whole thing. Let me be very clear about that. But Mauricio Pochettino has not had the luxury or the time to have the full A team on his roster 9 times out of 10. He's brought, of course, when the fall happens normally around September, what happens there is it's a young player camp for everyone. You bring in your younger players to try and get more minutes for themselves on the first team potentially. It happens a lot. We've seen it constantly. That's very normal. But yes, last summer to be exact, the U.S. men's national team did have their A team, but they had a different coach, and that was Greg Berhalter. Greg Berhalter, of course, was a part of the U.S. men's national team in 2024 when Copa America was in town in the U.S. And so with Copa America, of course, being in the U.S., the U.S. men's national team, they decided to go. They decided to go and play. That was Christian Pulisic and everybody. But then they didn't decide to go and play in the Gold Cup, which made no sense. And it's just frustrating because, yes, the Gold Cup means something. The Gold Cup is definitely the lesser of every single tournament the U.S. men's national team plays in every year or every other year. It's as simple as that. The Nations League is even a better tournament in my eyes than the Gold Cup for the most part. And I go back to talking about it because Mauricio Pochettino has not had a lot of time with the A team, with this team at all. And that's the truth. He has not seen what Christian Pulisic can do a lot with Ricardo Pepi, with Gio Reyna on the same team, with Tim Weah, with this whole entire team, with Brendan Aronson, potentially Paxton Aronson on the bench, Yunus Musa, Anthony Robinson, all these players. He hasn't gotten to truly see what this team is about together. And that's the frustrating part about why they didn't show up. Yes, they said that, of course, it's a grueling season. What happens in a year? What happens in a year when this team, of course, decide to do the same thing or right before their season ends, and then it's going to be the World Cup in 2 weeks after? So it's one of the frustrating parts about this tournament and about this loss is because, yes, the U.S. men's national team didn't have their full team, but at the same time, it's giving Mauricio Pochettino less to work with and less to experiment with, considering there's not going to be a lot of friendlies coming up with the team wanting to play. Remember, September, that's the start of the Premier League. That's the start of the German League. That's the start of Ligue 1 in France and every other league. So it's still a loss for the U.S. men's national team and for them not to have wanted to play. It's as frustrating as can be. In a year that loss, that Gold Cup loss goes to not the players that played on the field, not Diego Luna, not anyone, but the players who did not show up, literally did not show up, decided to back out of the Gold Cup. Because if the U.S. men's national team don't even make it out of their group, we're going to look right back at last Sunday from the Gold Cup and say, why didn't you play in this Gold Cup? Because that was the moment where Mauricio Pochettino needed them more than they needed him so that he knew how to play this team come 2026 in June when the World Cup was in the U.S. It's really all I have to say on that. Yes, of course, the handball, that was a whole other thing. Of course, that honestly should have been called. Yes, Diego Luna, that was a massive player that all of a sudden he showed up in the biggest way possible. Now it looks like Diego Luna, he just about won himself already a spot in the 23-man roster in about in 1 year time. He just about won himself a spot already. Of course, he unfortunately did not show up in the finals. He was shut down very well by Mexico, but in that way, he's still young and can learn a lot from that, and that's exactly what's probably going to happen because he's such a great player in general. Anyways, that's really all I have to say on that. It's very frustrating to watch in general, but it is what it is. Hopefully that's not anything to foreshadow come next year, with the team, of course, being a lot different. Anyways, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we will be talking, of course, a little bit more about the magazine, and then get to talk about we'll talk motorsports as well. So we'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Sherryland ISD, a nationally recognized district focusing on quality and rigorous instruction where every child is immersed in a culture of academic success. Sherryland ISD, excellence is our tradition.
When you study local at Texas Southmost College, you can choose from over 50 associate degree programs, certificates, and workforce training programs, all at the most affordable cost in the Rio Grande Valley. Transfer your TSC credits to a university or start a new career, like Kat Gomez, who graduated from TSC and is now patrolling the streets of Brownsville and serving her community. Register now at tsc.edu/register and study local at Texas Southmost College.
At San Benito Vision Source, the optometry staff works around your busy schedule and take the time to answer your questions and concerns prior to a visit. Dr. Jaime Rodriguez and Dr. Laura Loki offering full vision examinations, diagnostics, and treatment of an array of eye diseases and conditions to keep your eyes healthy. Call the friendly staff today with questions or schedule a consultation. San Benito Vision Source.
This summer, it's time for mimosas and brunch with the girls. A beachside lunch with the kiddos. Delicious Bayside burgers. And world-famous fried shrimp with a cold one. South Padre Island has your breakfast, lunch, and dinner plans covered. Book your summer getaway today. Visit sopadre.com.
Back live again once again here. Of course, before we talk about motorsports, well, we'll have a couple more things to talk about. But once again, this is live from Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, check out Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac here in Brownsville, Texas. Again, I'm Jacob Young. This is Rio Sports Live Network. Here we're talking sports. One of the other things, of course, to mention is the Rio Sports Live Network magazine. Well, it'll have about 82 or so schools in there just for football itself. So that's very exciting. Of course, like we mentioned, it'll have all the Brownsville schools to none other than Santa Rosa to La Feria to, of course, all the way to the Upper Valley in Hidalgo with Hidalgo High School, of course. And it will also have, well, just the biggest thing is going to be the key players, the key games to look out for, the whole schedule and snippets of this team. From, of course, even St. Joseph Academy will be in the Rio Sports Live magazine. So very excited about that, as well as, of course, the volleyball magazine coming out with it not too long after or right before it. So very exciting, as we are about 7-ish weeks away from that to take place, for us to start calling football games. And of course, not too soon from that, like we mentioned, it's volleyball tournament season too. So we are legitimately about to be in full swing right after the 4th of July. Everything comes in a flash, and we are back to September. We are back to August, and it's always exciting. So looking forward to this whole entire thing. But moving on, of course, we'll really just kind of staying with this football talk. One of the biggest things, of course, is college football, and not too long from now. And the UTRGV, they mentioned their home schedule, so I'm going to read you all that very quickly. I won't really dive into it that much, as, of course, you can check out everyone else for doing that. And talking about potentially there being, I don't know, just a lot of excitement around it for UTRGV football. Even though in my eyes, I don't know. Sul Ross State at home on August 30th to Langston on September 13th, September 20th, Texas Wesleyan, October 4th, Houston Christian University with Incarnate Word, Nichols, and East Texas A&M to round out the schedule all the way to November 22nd. That is your Southland Conference, of course, at home. And that is, of course, from also not just that, but just letting you all know that is, of course, what you will see in general. All of them will be from 7 and 5 p.m. And those are, of course, like I mentioned, are your home games for the teams and or for UTRGV. They play at Prairie View A&M. They play at Southern Louisiana. And October 11th is when their bye week is. And October 18th, they play against Lamar. And then November 1st at Stephen F. Austin. November 15th is McNeese, with November 22nd, like we mentioned, East Texas A&M University. So I bring all that up, of course. Well, one thing is to quickly say, take this season with a grain of salt. For UTRGV football, don't expect much. This is their first year. This is their first season. The teams that they are playing against have been around for since I was a kid. Since I was 6 years old, for most of these teams, I am not joking when I say that. They are well endowed programs that have been around forever. This is UTRGV's first year, and they're recruiting. Remember, the head coach, he had only coached high school before being hired. Remember, it's going to be difficult. Yes, support. Have fun at the games. But take this season as any type of rebuilding year for any other team, because this is one that will be that. I expect a three games for UTRGV to 4 games for them to win, potentially. Going 4-8 or 3-9 would not be terrible for this program. If somehow, some way they win 7 games, that would be absolutely insane. I don't expect that. Keeping it realistic. That is just me. That is your little UTRGV football talk. Now I want to go back to, of course, soccer, because UEFA Women's Euros have officially kicked off and are in full swing, and are a couple of groups already in their final groups will be already in their final group stage matches. Actually, all of them are in their final group stage matches days, which means, of course, let's talk about this really quickly. The UEFA Euros is pretty exciting as well. Right now, France and Wales are tied 1-1. And so, of course, that's your last game of Group D, and that would be crazy. The Group D really being the group of death. Let's read you, of course, Group A and where they stand for the final. Norway, Switzerland, Finland, and Iceland. Norway and Switzerland, if the group were to end today, they would be through. Norway and Switzerland would be through, which is pretty interesting. Spain and Italy in Group B. Well, so Spain, Italy, Portugal, and Belgium. Italy not being able to secure their spot into the quarterfinals, or into the knockout stage to be exact. Same really for, well, no, Spain has officially locked themselves into the knockout round, but not as first place. Italy still alive in second place, have not clinched their spot into the knockout round. Portugal, with that 1 point, that draw yesterday against Italy was massive for them. They stay alive. Now for Sweden, Germany, Denmark, and Poland. Pretty interesting in that sense. With Sweden with 6 points, Germany with 6 points as well. They have eliminated Denmark and Poland. And so Germany and Sweden, they'll play against each other to see who will go through as the first team or the second team. France right now is drawn with the Welsh, puts this group in its craziest position yet. Of course, if France were to win, they would secure a spot in the knockout round, but does not look like it at the moment. That group, the group of death is what I'm calling it, is still an interesting group indeed, and will still be open to that final day if it stands. France and England had played each other on the first match, so France had destroyed England on that one. They won, and then right now would only have 4 points. If the Welsh get a win, then everyone would have a victory, and it would be all 3 points. But right now, France shares a draw with Wales. Wales, if that were to stand, would have 1 point. They would still not necessarily be eliminated from play, but would have to win their final match and hope for a couple of things to still go their way. That is in the group of death. So very exciting again. England were able to destroy the Netherlands 4-0 after losing to France in their first match of the group stage. No team has ever been eliminated in the group stage after winning the Euros the last time prior. That was 4 years ago to be exact, when England won in front of their home fans in none other than Wembley. So that is your kind of exciting update of the UEFA Women's Euros. It's been absolutely outstanding. Your next match is really kind of to think of after this will be for the final group day, and that really, I think, kicks off tomorrow. Tomorrow, Finland, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland. Like we mentioned, really both teams, Norway and Switzerland, are through. And so if you put that into perspective, it's really just that group is kind of locked in. It's about who will win over, or who will get the first position. Sometimes you don't want to be faced in second, but that's a very difficult group, as the first two teams, Norway, of course, have been looking good with Ida Hegerberg. Unfortunately for myself, just because not that big of a fan of that side. But either way, Portugal, Belgium, and Italy, Spain, that's going to be fun on Friday, July 11th at 2 p.m. That is your group for Friday. Portugal, again, both of those games being played simultaneously will be very exciting. Italy and Spain needing, well, really Spain and Italy, if they were to draw, both would be going through. Italy would, well, Italy with a draw, they'd clinch second place, which would be fine. Spain would clinch, of course, first place. Italy with a win would make it to 7 points, and they would overtake Spain for the number 1 position in that group on the final day. Saturday, July 12th, 2 p.m. Poland, Denmark, and Sweden, Germany. That group is already in a lock. And then the biggest one on Saturday, of course, or Sunday, check that, July 13th at 2 p.m., is England, Wales, Netherlands, and France. A massive, massive match for both England and Wales, and really Netherlands and France. Netherlands, they kind of need a victory. Or not kind of, they really do need a victory in order to move on to the knockout round. There's a chance that they may miss the knockout round, which is absolutely crazy. Like I said, the draw of this group was insane. It was the Republic of Ireland versus Wales to see who would get that final spot in the UEFA Euros. Wales ends up winning, and they are in the fight of their life, where they actually, at the moment, draw with England, or check that, draw with none other than France, and then would need a victory over England, would be able to overtake them and go to the knockout round if things were to stand where France were to beat the Netherlands. It's really the only way. If this result holds, France beats the Netherlands in the next round, France would secure, of course, first place, and if Wales were to beat England, they would secure second spot and move on in the craziest upset if that were to happen. So a lot to just be excited for on that end. And women's soccer, that's why I really follow it. It's so competitive. It's so back and forth. Yes, the UEFA Euros, even last year, for the men's was absolutely phenomenal. European soccer really at its peak at the moment. It's very, very fun. Okay, moving on to your final really topic as we've hit 2:50 p.m. just about. Of course, we talk about IMSA. IMSA this weekend are off to beautiful outskirts of Canada, to be exact. I'll tell you exactly where the racetrack of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, aka Mosport, for everyone that remembers it being called that, is located in none other than Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada. So Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is located north of Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, approximately 75 kilometers, 47 miles east of Toronto. Specifically, the address, of course, is somewhere like that. But either way, it's a phenomenal circuit. A very small one in a way, but it's hosted the Canadian Grand Prix. It hosted the Canadian Grand Prix back in the day for F1, which is pretty interesting. Of course, before you got the beautiful Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And so, pretty interesting. Multi-track motorsport venue located north of Bowmanville in Clarington, Ontario, Canada, to be exact. Of course, we talked about that. The facility features a 3.957 kilometer, 2.459 mile, 10-turn road course, a 2.9 kilometer, 1.8 mile advanced driver and race driver training facility with a 0.402 kilometer, 0.250 mile skid pad driver development center, which that's actually pretty cool. Did not know about that. This is off of Wikipedia. But anyways, just wanted to talk about it and wanted to see. Broke ground in 1960 to be exact. When it hosted the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix was in 1961, 1967, 1969, 1971, 1974, 1976, and 1977. So pretty interesting in that note. Of course, back in the day, it used to host the GT World Challenge America from 1990, 1997, 1999, 2012, 2014, and 2019. Used to host the NASCAR Trucks Series the Chevrolet Silverado 250 from 2013 to 2019. It really stopped after the pandemic. But it's absolutely a phenomenal racing circuit, and it brings out the best in drivers for sure. And now, of course, it brings us to Samantha Tan Racing Talk. Samantha Tan, of course, will get to race in her home racetrack. The last time that she was there, I believe she said, was about 2012, 2013. Or check that, 2016, I believe, was the last time that she said that she was there. Anyways, being able to race at her home racetrack in a home race is absolutely phenomenal. Now she gets to do it in the BMW M4 GT3 in front of, well, her home fans. And, of course, the best part is leading the Bronze Championship in the IMSA VP Racing Fuel Sports Car Challenge. It's been absolutely phenomenal to watch her race. She knows this track, I'm sure, from the back of her hand, just like I know Circuit of the Americas from the back of my hand. Because, of course, that's my home racetrack. But moving on, of course, it means so much to her. She's had herself a massive summer. We talked about it on this show, particularly from racing in the Le Mans support race of the Le Mans Cup. Road to Le Mans, the 245-minute or 15-lap races, somewhere around there. And then, of course, bringing on to the other races she got to do the literal week after in the doubleheader. Well, really, she had a triple header, did not race the last race, of course, but was just a BMW ambassador for the last one. But the race before that one was the Nürburgring 24. Got to race in the Nürburgring 24, finished second with her team that she was able to join. I believe it was Bulldog Racing for the Mini. Absolutely phenomenal. Flew down that circuit every single lap that she had the opportunity to. And, well, again, helped that team finish second in class. Absolutely phenomenal. Then you move on, was a BMW ambassador for the CrowdStrike, 24 hours of none other than Spa. So she's had herself a pretty crazy month, and in July, looking for another great result at her home racetrack. It's 2 races. One, I believe, on Saturday, the other one, I believe, on Sunday. So you look at it that way once again for Samantha Tan, where she is put in this situation with the bronze category. If she's looking at that point, just needs to do well, sweep the podium. That doesn't necessarily mean win. Winning one of those races would be perfect, but finishing second, and even both of those would be spot on for the championship. Of course, she wants to sweep the podium, I'm certain, and so we'll try to do that there. She will be able to keep pushing through that. It has been absolutely phenomenal, a trooper through this whole thing, and, well, can't question anymore. She's on the right path to success. She's looking for another win, that whole entire team. The goal is to win that championship. If they win that championship, I believe it is an automatic bid into an automatic seat or an automatic spot or whatever into none other than the beautiful, beautiful IMSA WeatherTech Endurance Series. IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge, I believe, would be the next step for this team if that comes into fruition. And then who knows what will happen this next time. Because, again, yes, she is a BMW ambassador, but then, I don't know, maybe after this, who knows what the future holds. Hopefully it is a factory position for BMW, for Samantha Tan Racing. What would that mean for the team? Pretty much would be kind of a teammate, sort of, to the WRT family, and I believe that one I don't know how that would all work, but one can only hope that that's where she will be next June. Will be at the Le Mans 24, racing the Le Mans 24 hours. Same with her being able to, race in the CrowdStrike 24, with her being able to race fully in the none other than the 6 hours of the Glen, 24 hours of Daytona, 10 hours in the Petit Le Mans, and then, of course, which is at the end of the season, racing at none other than Laguna Seca to the beautiful Long Beach Detroit Grand Prix, if they have that. All of that fun stuff for her, hopefully, is where she'll be next season. We're looking forward to seeing what she can do, as always, because Samantha Tan has proven time and time again that she does belong in IMSA. She does belong in the GT World Challenge Americas. Again, you just look at last season and how much of everything that went right for that team, and how that one thing that could go wrong did go wrong with the 2 fuel pump issues and them not being able to finish top 5 in the end. Now, it was not her fault one bit. And being able to continue and to, again, keep pushing and going forward, and this is where she belongs, to be able to be at the top step in motorsports, in WEC, and in IMSA WeatherTech. This is just one step closer, and at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, she will have that opportunity to show, to prove, to sweep that podium, potentially win overall. Would be absolutely epic. So, anyways, we're just about to get ready to wrap things up. But yes, it's been a phenomenal show. We've been able to talk a little bit here and there about a lot of other things. And again, remember, not too long from now, of course, tomorrow we'll have the Venom League on Rio Sports Live Network. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we'll have that most likely on Highway 83 on Monday. And then Tuesday, the Venom League. And then, of course, Wednesday, we'll be back here with the show. And then Thursday of next week, the Pony World Series will be here on Rio Sports Live. Not to mention, after that Thursday, we'll have it on Friday as well, Saturday as well. A lot will be with yours truly being calling as much as a game. I don't believe I'll be able to stay all of Saturday, but then Sunday, if I'm able to go back for the championship, I'll be able to do that. Anyways, that's kind of on your calendar for Rio Sports Live Network. Looking forward to calling all the action for you all, especially tomorrow for the Venom League from, I believe, 4 to the final match at 9. Thank you all so very much for watching. I've been Jacob Young. This has been a Rio Sports Live presentation. Thank you so very much to, of course, Luke Fruia Motors. If you're in the market for a new car, check out Luke Fruia, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. Thank you all so very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Jacob Young, and this has been a Rio Sports Live presentation. Take care, and we will see you all very soon.